Hello everybody and welcome to week 3 of Talking NFL. This week we've got a couple of topics. First topic is going to be talking about Trey Lance, Justin Fields and Zach Wilson, who's had a better start to the preseason and who I think is going to have the best rookie yet. And then next we're going to be ranking defenses. So getting straight into the first topic. Trey Lance, Justin Fields, Zach Wilson, who's better? So first thing I'm going to do is read out the stats. Trey Lance, first game he had 14 attempts, 5 completions, 128 yards, 1 touchdown, 0 interceptions. Second game he had 14 attempts again, but this time 8 completions, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, 102 yards. Justin Fields, first game he had 20 attempts, 14 completions, 142 yards, 1 touchdown, 0 interception, 5 rushes for 33 yards. Second game he had 19 attempts, 9 completions, 80 yards, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 4 rushes for 46. Zach Wilson, first game didn't play. Second game 11 attempts, 9 completions, 120 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. So looking at those stats, I'm going to say Justin Fields has had Justin Fields has had the best preseason. Zach Wilson gets ruled out straight away considering he's played one less game than everybody else. And Trey Lance, first game, pretty 14 attempts, 5 completions, not a good ratio there. And then his second game he did throw an interception. And then Justin Fields, first game had a great game, probably the best game out of all these games here. Second game a bit lackluster, but he was playing a strong Bills team. So, but then I've got a completely different opinion when it comes to who's going to have the best rookie year. When it comes to who's going to have the best rookie year, my opinion personally is that Trey Lance will have the best year, simply because look at the roster that San Francisco have on offense, and they've just got a bucket load of like 7 out of 10 weapons. Trey Sermon, you can catch the ball, can run the ball. Same thing can be said with Raheem Mostert. Tevin Coleman, solid running back, and then you got Mike Williams, new addition, and it is Mike Williams, new addition, good one. Same thing with Mohamed Sanu. And you got Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel. They can catch the ball and they can get yards after the catch as well, and I think that'll be crucial for a guy like Trey Lance, because the majority of his passes in these preseason games were little bullet passes about 10 yards, and 10 yards Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel, they can stretch that to 20 yards, 25 yards. And then also you'd expect Trey Lance to play the second half of the season and have Jimmy G starting for the first half. Look at the second half of the season. Rams is a tough game, but then you got Jags winnable, Vikings is tough, Seahawks is tough, but then Bengals winnable, Falcons winnable, Titans winnable, Texans winnable, and then Rams another tough game. Look at that. If he gets a winning record coming out of the second half of the season, he's had a very good rookie season, and that's not it is a hard task, but it's very doable. And then reason I've not said Justin Fields. Bears roster, obviously you've got Allen Robinson, and they have got a decent running game, people like David Montgomery and Tariq Cohen. I think Chicago Bears want to take a similar approach to how the Cardinals have done with Kyler Murray. They've got a guy like Allen Robinson, get a good partnership between Justin Fields and Allen Robinson, like there is between Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins, and then really build on the running game, build on Kyler Murray's running game in this situation, Justin Fields, and build on the other two, because they've got good competition at running back with Tariq Cohen and Montgomery. And then reason not said Zach Wilson, they've picked a quarterback coming out of Bayou, so not proven college, and with the Jet scouting team, I'd put my money on him being a bust, if I'm being honest. And then now we get straight into the first topic, which is talking about ranking defenses first to last in each division. So first, in the AFC East, I've got Miami Dolphins, led the league last year in turnovers with 29. Their defense hasn't really got worse since last year; it's got better. Like we're bringing in people like Jalen Phillips, and then last year they had 5 games where they conceded more than 30 points were scored on them. So that's why I put them in first place. Second place is Bills. Bills, very solid defense. Last 6 years in the draft, they picked 5 defensive players in the first round. First year in 2016, you had Shaq Lawson. Now he's at the Houston Texans. Tre'Davious White. Next year was Tre'Davious White. We know he's one of their best players. And then And then it's Tremaine Edmonds, solid player for the Bills. Ed Oliver, solid player for the Bills. And then, obviously, we're still to see from Gregory Rousseau. Last year, they had 3 games where they conceded more than 30 points. So it's interesting to see. Bills actually had Bills had less games where they conceded more than 30 points. But I've put Miami at first place because the turnovers very crucial. And I rate Miami's coach more than the Bills. Third is the Patriots. Patriots solid defense. Good additions this year like Matt Judon, Christian Barmore, Ronnie Perkins. Obviously, we know they've got a great coach, but Patriots defense. Obviously, a couple of years ago they were a defensive powerhouse. This year, I couldn't really say the same thing. Obviously, a lot of the people look back to the prime time, and it's not really the prime time, but 2018 defense. You had people who have left since then: Calvin Lloyd, Devin McCourty, and a lot of them. It's tough to say, but they are past their prime. Stephon Gilmore, he is past the prime. Same thing you could say of Dante Hightower. And then at 4th place, you've got the Jets. No, sorry. 4th place, I've got the Jets. Jets didn't really upgrade their defense at all, but Robert Saleh should help. Last year they had 9 games with 30 plus points scored against them. That is pretty shocking. And then moving on AFC North, first place I got the Steelers, led the league in sacks last year with an average of 3.3 sacks per game. The departure of Bud Dupree, I feel it's been sort of recovered with the additions of Melvin Ingram and Joe Schobert in free agency. Second is the Browns. It was close between Brown and Raven, but I've edged the Browns here because if you look at Browns and Ravens teams, Browns and Ravens defense, the strong points of both of their defenses. Browns' strong point is their front line, Ravens is their secondary, but still Ravens having a better secondary. Browns still managed more interceptions than them last year, so I've edged the Browns. And then third is Ravens. Ravens, yeah, I just said they're close, but they had 5 games last year where 30 points were scored against them, and they've got rid of Yannick Ngakoue and Matthew Judon and 2 of their best pass rushers. So I think their front line is going to struggle this year. They're going to have to deeply rely on their secondary, which they can do. They're still going to be a formidable defense, but they won't be as good as they were last year. 4th is the Bengals. This year, their off-season was about making life easier for Joe Burrow, so no major additions. But a slight upgrade on the secondary with people like Eli Apple and Awuzie. Last year they had 6 games with 30 or more points scored on them. And then now move on to the AFC South. 1, I put Colts, very solid defense again. Some elite players like DeForest Buckner, Darius Leonard, Bobby Okereke, Xavier Rhodes. And then hopefully Kutipe can be on that list as well. And then last year, only 3 games where teams scored more than 30 points on them. Second is the Titans. I mean, last free agency was not good for the Titans defense, losing 3 major players and bringing in 1. But they still land second place, mainly thanks to Bud Dupree, Harold Landry, Kevin Byard, and a good coaching system. And I got a bit of a fun fact here for you guys. So it's a new thing that I hope I can be doing. But fun fact, last year, Tennessee had the biggest gain in turnovers from the year before. It was a gain of plus 11 turnovers. Pretty interesting fact there. Third is Jaguars. And Jaguars are an unimproved defense. Again, similar to the Bengals, thanks to the focus on Trevor Lawrence. They've got a good linebacker core, but they've got a good linebacker core with people like Josh Allen, but their defense is lackluster. Last year the Jags had 9 games where 30 plus points were scored on them, and I don't see that improving this year. 4th is Texans, one of the worst defenses in the league because Laramie Tunsil trade hasn't let them improve that defense with all those losses of first round picks. Chances are they will get steamrolled by every team that faces them. And next up, we got the AFC West, and we're going with first place is the Broncos. Broncos solid defense and have a great defensive-minded coach. Last year they had the least turnovers in the league. And I got another fun fact. The fun facts are coming like London buses here. I didn't have any, now they're all coming. Fun fact, Broncos had the biggest loss of turnovers last year, 16. This year they had 16 turnovers, and they got half of their turnovers last year. And then, but the additions of Kyle Fuller and Patrick Surtain, they should help that. And Von Miller's healthy. Last year he missed the whole season. He's back. It's obviously going to be great for the Broncos having him back. Second is Chargers' new coach Brandon Staley, who was the defensive coordinator for the Rams, should really help this defense. And then they also have some elite players in Joey Bosa and Darwin James. Last year they had 5 games where they conceded 20 or more points. And just bringing back to the point of Brandon Staley, I think Brandon Staley will really help that defense improve a lot. I think that's the main reason why that's second spot for me, because of the new coach Brandon Staley. Third, I've got the Chiefs. Chiefs has some stars on the offense like Tyrann Mathieu and Frank Reich, but a real lack of depth leads them to being a mediocre defense for the last couple of years now. However, last year they had 22 turnovers, which was an upgrade of 6 from the last season. So are they on the rise? That's a question you've got to be asking yourself. I don't think they are, really, because no additions are being made. It's pretty much the same defense. I feel like the coaches are making a big difference. If this was coached by Adam Gase, I think every game with the Chiefs is a shootout. But thanks to the coaches, it's not. Fourth, I've got the Raiders. Raiders front line was shocking last year, finishing 25th in pressure rate. However, the addition of Yannick Ngakoue should help that, and the secondary wasn't much better. And there's not really that much hope of an improvement since the first round draft pick 2 years ago. Damon Arnett is now practicing with the second team. And then we're now in the NFC, moving to the NFC East. Easy first place to pick. Washington defense, their defense on the rise, but the secondary, it is a cause for concern. But their front line can cover that up, and we've seen that last year, finishing 4th in sacks. And a good rookie year from Chase Young. Second, I've got the Giants. Giants only had 2 games last year where they conceded more than 30 points, and they netted 11 fumbles, which is tied 4th in the league. Third is Dallas, and this was a close one between Dallas and the Eagles, but edge Dallas. Dallas were one of the worst units in the league last year, having 9 games where 30 plus points were scored on them. However, Dallas used 9 of their 11 draft picks on defense. Fourth, I got the Eagles. Eagles weren't as bad as Dallas last year, but no real improvements have been made. And the standout players include Brandon Graham, Fletcher Cox, and Darius Slay, and none of these guys are above 30s. None of these guys are. These guys are all in their 30s. So, looks like that Eagles defense needs to be in a rebuild. A bit of a tough situation for the Eagles, I feel, because obviously they need to build around this quarterback Jalen Hurts, and they have an aging offensive line, so they're gonna need to sort that out. He's got a couple of weapons like obviously Devontae Smith now, and Zach Ertz and Miles Sanders, and then also they drafted Kenneth Gainwell. But really, they probably need another wide receiver at the club. They need, as I said before, offensive line. Defensive line needs to be a bit revitalised, having a very old defensive line. And the secondary is shocking as well. Obviously, Darius Slay being the star part of the secondary, but he's 30 now, so it'll be interesting to see which route the Eagles take in the next couple of years. Now move on to the NFC South. Easy first pick, Tampa Bay, one of the best defenses in the league. They're joint 4th on sacks, joint 4th on turnovers, and they only had 3 games where 30 plus points were scored in them. And then second, we've got the Saints, another solid defense, and that is pretty much all thanks to Sean Payton. But all of their picks in the first 3 rounds were on defense, and they got 26 turnovers last year, which was tied 3rd, and an upgrade of 9 from the year before. Some elite players like Jordan and Lattimore. Third is Carolina. Carolina is it's a young defense and flashes of brilliance last year. and their main star was being Brian Barnes, who had the 6th best PFF grade for all of the edge rushers in the league, and I think that's pretty solid. You've got players in that Carolina defense. Obviously, last year they picked Derek Brown, defensive tackle. Yet to see much from him, but if he does perform, obviously it's a bit of a scary front line. Have Brian Barnes and Derek Brown. If them two stay at the club next 10 years, I imagine they'll be terrorising the offensive lines in that division. And then also this year they picked Darius Slay. I think obviously that was a bit of a weird pick considering Patrick Surtain was still on the board, but the Carolina staff room must have a reason for it. It'll interesting to see how he plans out. 4th, Atlanta. They're similar to the Chiefs. They have superstars like Deion Jones and Grady Jarrett, but a lack of depth. Last year they had 6 games where they conceded more than 30 points. And then also the Atlanta defense, they're known for being bottle jobs. 4 games last year they were in front by a considerable amount of points and they bottled it. And then next up we've got the NFC North, first place Green Bay Packers. Green Bay Packers front line is improving, it has to be said, with Rashawn Gary had a bit of a breakout year last year towards the end of the season. He was improving. Zadarius Smith, he's always been a solid player. And his secondary, led by Zay Alexander, put up another strong year. Obviously they did sort of come to a bit, they sort of lacked a bit in the NFC Championship game against the Buccaneers, but in the regular season, very solid. Second, Minnesota. They were pretty soft last year, coming 28th in total sacks. But the addition of Dalvin Tomlinson from the New York Giants and Daniel Hunter and Michael Pierce, they're coming back from an injury. Obviously, that should help them come up those leaderboards a bit. Third is Chicago. Chicago have got superstars like Khalil Mack and Roquan Smith, and that's it. The rest of the team are pretty lackluster. They aren't putting up the numbers they should be. They come 8th in pressure rate. People say that's good, but when you've got a guy like Khalil Mack who's getting the big bucks, a guy like Roquan Smith who's getting the big bucks, they really should be getting massive pressure rates there. Their depth has eroded last couple of years from the times they were getting into the playoffs relatively consistently, and then 5 of their starters are over 30 years, which is the most in the league. 5 of their starters on defense, are over 30 years old, which is the most in the league. And then 4th is Detroit, and any quarterback that, and an interesting fact here as well, any quarterback that came up against Detroit Lions last year averaged a passer rating of 118.4. That is shocking. That if a quarterback gets that is an elite game. If they get a pass rating of 18.4, and that's their average. And then Jeffrey Okudah obviously was an exciting pick last year. People are backing him to be like next Jalen Ramsey and stuff, but he was below par last year as well. And moving on to the final division, we got the Rams. Number 1 is the Rams, best defense in the league. They have the best. They've got the 2 best defensive players in the league, with Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey. Don't think they'll be as good this year, obviously with the loss of their defensive coordinator, but still they're gonna stop teams from scoring many points. Second, San Francisco. In my eyes, they're still a defensive powerhouse despite having an off year last year. Since 2019, they had the tied best yards per play. That sort of means if an offense comes up against them, the amount of yards they're getting per play, and against the San Francisco 49ers, it was 4.8. New defensive coordinator, it will be interesting to watch him. Third, Arizona Cardinals. Arizona Cardinals were 4th in sacks last year, and that will only go up thanks to JJ Watt coming in. Great new addition for them. Isaiah Simmons and Zaven Collins make for great young middle linebacker core, and you've got to give it to the Arizona Cardinals GMs around the league. No, Arizona Cardinals GMs. They have really improved this Arizona Cardinals defense. Arizona Cardinals whole team, to be honest. Arizona Cardinals. We'll start from when they picked Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray came into the team, and then So he's the main addition that year. And then bringing in people like DeAndre Hopkins and Isaiah Simmons, massive upgrades there. And then this year, Zaven Collins and JJ Watt, just such good additions. And then they've other players like Buda Baker already in the defense. They are a decent defense. Seahawks, they had a couple of good defensive players like Bobby Wagner. Good defensive coach, but they have one of the worst secondaries in the league, and the departure of Shaquille Griffin, let's be honest, it's not going to help that. So let's do a roundup of all the divisions. NFC West, the Rams top the league. Rams topped it. NFC North, the Green Bay Packers. NFC South, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And then NFC East was the Washington football team. NFC West was the Denver Broncos. NFC North was the Pittsburgh Steelers. NFC South was Indianapolis Colts. And NFC East was Miami Dolphins. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys for talking NFL V4.